everyone. Hey, we're live. Mic's working, camera's on. We got Shane in the house. Back over here. It's Wednesday. I'm a little disoriented at the moment. Just woke up from a nap. Then my schedule's been off since Saturday with the fire, as you know, and slowly. I think tonight might have been the night that I got back on schedule, but then I take a 2-hour nap, so now I'm going to be wide awake here in a couple hours, and I'll be up till 3 o'clock again tonight, maybe 4 o'clock, and then get up late again tomorrow, and just more battling, trying to get my schedule back to normal. But when you got to take a nap, you got to take a nap. I'm not going to wrestle with that. This is Random Thoughts. You're here with Random Excess and Dutch, Wayne and Shane. Picking out a story or two to just see what does it trigger in my mind, what does it make me think about, what does it make me feel, and I'll talk about that. And the idea is maybe as a lesson, we can all do that as something in life that's triggering us, causing us to think and feel a certain way. We can challenge that perspective a little bit by asking the questions: what is it about this that's making me think and feel? And maybe take that journey and maybe discover something and get an opportunity to shift perspective a little bit. Shifting perspective is one of the parts of, at least for me, a strategy for dealing with some mental illness problems, just some personality issues, just things in general, to see the world a little bit differently. It's the world is the world, the universe is the universe. It's doing whatever it's doing. Those are things outside my locus of control that I cannot control. That's why they're outside my locus of control. But I have to witness them, and they trigger me. And then that triggering, ends up getting me to do something, whether it's make a comment, maybe it's fly off the handle, rage, whatever. That leads to consequences, and I have to own those consequences. And I have to ask, do I want those consequences? Are those the kinds of consequences Wayne wants to have? So, and a lot of times, the answer is no. I mean, in the past, certainly, I've done things over and over and over again and suffered the same consequences over and over and over again. And, I didn't want to do that. So it means I have to do some things differently. And it's not just a matter, a lot of times it's not a matter of doing something different until I first start thinking about something different or feeling different, and sometimes I can't even do that until I start looking at things differently. And then what happens if I look at things differently, then I don't really have to worry about so much as monkeying with the way I think or the way I feel. The fact that I'm just looking at it differently, I'm going to have different thoughts altogether. It's not that I'm thinking about it differently. I'm having different thoughts because I'm looking at the situation differently. So it's not the same situation anymore. Really, it's fundamentally, yes, it's the exact same situation, but because of my perspective, to me, it's a different situation. Because it's a different situation, it gives me that opportunity to have a different thought, to have a different emotional reaction. And then, of course, the thoughts and the emotions are talking to each other. The thoughts are the ones that are saying, stop, 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 stop. We got to think about this. We got to process. It's also the source of this paralysis by analysis. If you overthink a situation, sometimes you end up doing nothing, because that's the job of the reasonable part of the mind, is to slow you down and to stop you while you process information. And the emotional part of the mind is the one that's saying go, 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 go. It's the one that's always talking. So there's always listening, there's always talking. They're sort of battling, and they're looking for a balance. And at some point in time, one of them tends to win out over the other, but hopefully it's after they've stabilized, after your thoughts have stabilized, after your emotions have stabilized. You find this quiet place where you can pull the trigger and you just do something. You just go for it. There's a comfort. It's not that you know what's going to happen. It's not that you've predicted the future. It's not that you've perfectly reasoned out exactly everything. And it's also not that you're feeling the best that you can feel about it. But you're going for this balance between your thoughts and your emotions, so that you can pull the trigger at the appropriate moment, and then you get a consequence. You get an action, because you pull the trigger, you engage some action, you have some sort of consequence, and then that consequence now becomes a new triggering event, which is sort of it's almost outside your locus of control, because you already did the action. So the consequences are going to be whatever they're going to be. That's like the universe is going to do whatever it's going to do. you have your actions, there's going to be consequences, and you got to deal with the consequences. And then the whole cycle repeats. So that's kind of sort of the CBT model of things like that. And then your perspective is that first line of defense. So behind the first line of defense, there's the clarity of thought. So things like addiction play in there, and there's certain medications because there's certain other thought disorders that go on that sometimes have to be accounted for. And so maybe it's not as simple as just changing the way you think. You might have to do things different chemically. Either stop putting chemicals in your system, in the case of drugs and alcohol, or maybe it's a matter of putting different chemicals in your system if you have to take any kind of medications for that kind of thing. And then the other side was the emotional side, where emotional stability, you can be very volatile. So you need something to level you out a little bit. So maybe you need a little bit of medication for that. And a lot of times, or you could use powerful thought. Again, maybe some Zen, some other meditation techniques that sort of just bring you down and center you. You're not changing your perspective necessarily as much as you're just forcing your body to calm the F down. So those two things, you get those things balanced out where you're not that you get rid of your emotions, but you let them change a little more slowly, and then you also have your thoughts a little bit more clarity of thought, so that your thoughts are not so random that they're disconnected and just arbitrary, but that there's a lot of there's connection that makes sense. You don't fall into this trap of logical insanity, which is something I've talked about before, and it's a great concept, and I like to talk about it whenever I can, believe it or not, even though it may not seem like it here, but it's maybe I think about it a lot more. But this logical insanity is this idea that you connect so many dots that you just end up in crazy land. That you started out in some place where it made sense, and any two connections that you made sense, but you made so many of them without sort of fact checking or error checking or reality checking, and before you know it, you're doing something crazy like dropping atomic weapons in Japanese cities and burning up hundreds of thousands of people. And that's sort of the origin of that phrase for me. It's from Dan Carlin's Hardcore History episode called Logical Insanity, where he kind of opens it up saying, hey, dropping the atomic bomb on the Japanese was a war crime. That's it. It's him talking. People who were behind that decision, war criminals. No doubt in my mind that that's true. That out of context, that thing is definitely true. But how did we get there? We're not a nation of criminals. At least we'd like to think we're not. We're not a nation of war criminals. We're not those people. So how did we get there? So then he tells the story in this episode, Logical Insanity, of how we, in World War II, we got to that place. And really, it's like at every step, it's like, oh, yeah, makes sense. I mean, at least when I listened to it, the mistake that we made is that we were in World War II. So now you can ask the question, how do we get out of World War II? How do we get out of war? War is one of these things that it seems like it's a natural. Oh no, we got to fight wars. You got to be ready and willing to fight wars. And it's like, yes, that's true. We should do everything we can to not fight war. It's again, it's that battle of there's the reasonable mind that's saying no, don't go, don't fight the war, and then there's the emotional side of us saying yes, fight the war, and you got to find that balance that says, okay, pull the trigger and suffer the consequences of war. But if you're going to reason it out and just use reason and take your emotion out of it when it comes to war, you find out that you don't want to fight war. The best wars are the ones that you never have to fight. I'm almost quoting Sun Tzu, Art of War. It's a short book. Go read it. It's a wonderful book about how to fight war essentially, and almost a takeaway from it is don't fight the war. Wars are won before they're fought, before the battles are fought. So you don't have to actually fight a battle to win a war. I mean, it's kind of in there. That message is sort of in there, but you got to be ready to do it, but you don't have to do it. But on your emotional side is, yeah, you have to do it. And it was actually something I posted on the Facebook page. This is actually connected. This is one which was on my mind today on the Facebook page. And I just posted a couple of minutes ago. I meant to post it earlier today. There's a quote from Eisenhower. And I won't put it up here. Well, I guess I can put it up here this way because here's the short version of it because it did. Oh, here's our Twitter. Yesterday was 960 followers. Today 959. So it comes and it goes. Yeah. I guess somebody got angry about something I did. But you can follow us on Twitter. It's at Random Access. Stuff pops up there. Eisenhower on war basically says that the essence of the quote is that bullets still food for the mouths of babies. I mean, money that goes to that we spend on war is money we could have spent on people. And it's not just the cost of bullets, but the cost of these weapon systems. They call them a weapon system. Like it might be something like a aircraft carrier. Well, it's never just an aircraft carrier because you got to put all kinds of airplanes on the thing. Well, those airplanes have to get designed and built and blah, 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 blah. It's not just the aircraft carrier either. It's the battle group that goes along with it. So you got to, so you can have these things, and there's this exponential compounding effect, and you end up spending tons of money, and you end up building a whole economy that depends on the fact that you build these things. Well, you can't just keep building and warehousing them, but you have to keep building to sustain your economy. So that means you got to use them up. And people don't like to just mothball things, and that's politically that's a suicide in some sense. You can't just take things, decommission things that are still usable. So you go to war and you use them up. You go to war and your planes get blown up, your bombs get used, your ships get sunk, and they've got to be replaced. And of course, the selling point too is that you get the next generation weapon system, so it's going to be bigger, better, stronger. But now you're stuck in a cycle where you have to fight wars to sustain your economy. Because I guess maybe it's close to supply and demand. But if your economy is based on supporting the military-industrial complex, if your economy is the military-industrial complex, then you have to fight wars, so the whole economy comes crashing down. Okay, that's a long introduction. Let's go ahead and say hello to Shane. See what Shane's been up to today.
What have I been up to today? Working on a few things. We're working on the show that's going to start tomorrow, called Arisen Strength. It's going to be mainly the introduction as to how the show was born. To give an idea as to how we're going to approach things. It's really a three-point approach, which is to support, to encourage, and to celebrate. And I think that we've got a really good combination there, and so much so that we may have some exciting news that is going to come within the next couple days. So been working on a few things. Yesterday was awfully busy in one way, and today was just as busy in another way. And but that's what makes things fun in business and in life. And so we've just been plugging away and been learning, improve, share. We had some great feedback from yesterday from both organizations that I spoke with, and so we've got a lot of things that are going in the right direction. I'm not saying that it's not challenging, because it definitely is, especially with time constraints and so forth, but it's exciting, it's rewarding, and that's what we're looking forward to. So and as far as your what you were talking about there in regards to the mindset of war, and even more to a personal standpoint, my life was action-reaction, especially in my addiction. I had so much anger within me, and I had so much unrest within me that it created that. And so, if there's an analogy, if somebody's going to, bomb me first, you can rest assured that I'm going to bomb them next. That's not necessarily the right way to do things, but that's what my life was like, and it created a lot of strife, and it created a lot of pain and a lot of misunderstanding within my life. So taking a pause, as in like Sun Tzu would say, take a pause before acting, and look for another app other than attacking, is a strategy that I have taken on recently. And when I say recently, over the last 5 years or so, that has done me well. And so, like I said, it's learn, improve, share, and that's part of it. And learning that what works and what doesn't work, and moving on and going from that point.
Well, and we're glad to have Shane back tonight. And we had him here last night, Jack. But there was I had this thought going yesterday because he was doing his thing, and well, the show must go on. Shane may not be here tonight. That was last night. At 9 o'clock, Shane was home. We got the whole show set up, and boom, 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 he's out. But I was telling him, well, I was all prepared to go. The show must go on. I was gonna do it without you if I had to. Tonight, I'm taking a nap. And wouldn't that bastard use my words against me? I'll take a nap. He comes, he got to wake me up after 9 o'clock, and I'm sleeping. Just the show must go on. Do not use my words against me.
But it's so much fun. It's part of Sun Tzu, actually.
But it's also part of life, right? We have to live with the world that we create, and if I'm creating this world where the show must go on, then yes, the show must go on, and you got to deal. And if the show doesn't, you got to deal with that consequence. But we're gonna do what we can to get on the air, and there's 2 of us, so it makes it easy. In order for it to be both oversleep or both to be, that's lowers the probability. There's more people who can make sure that things happen as they're supposed to happen. So that's a good thing. So, maybe it's related to homeostasis. You get 2 competing. Although here we're both working to the same ends, but there's 2 parts that are trying to do things and trying to keep the balance. So this is not exactly homeostasis. He and I are trying to get the show going, but there's 2 parts, and that makes me think at least homeostasis. Homeostasis is one of those things that has 2 in it. And, I have this whole theory of 1, 2, 3 in the universe too. I look for things that are 1, things that can sort of rotate, change perspective. That's something you can do yourself. You change your perspective, you rotate, you move. Or just rotate, basically, something to change your perspective. You're not changing the way you think or feel, but you change what you look at. And then that can change things. And the 2 here is what I think is homeostasis. That's the way the universe finds balance. Balance in the universe is not this perfect balance that is just always balanced. It's the seesaw. It's the seesaw. It's the teeter-totter. It's the thing that goes back and forth. It's almost like a pendulum, actually, trying to find the middle. But it swings to one side. And what you don't want is it swinging out of control one way or the other. And that's what sort of the homeostasis is. You can think of the pendulum kind of doing that. It is gravity pulling it back, but you can almost kind of imagine it's the 2 sides of the pendulum battling. There's one side pulling it this way and one side pulling it that way, and it swings back and forth. But it stays over time near the center. If you're looking for it, this is where it stabilizes. It's kind of like that's the sort of the center for it, the natural center. But it can't stay there perfectly. And homeostasis is almost that sense of there's these 2 competing forces, and the emotions are in your thoughts. So I was alluding to that earlier. The thoughts are go, 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 go. So it's pushing you to action, and your thoughts are kind of saying stop, 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 slow down, hold up. So there's the 2 competing forces, but they're in communication. And eventually, you're slowing the down one end, you're being pushed to action in the other end, and then at some point in time, you get to pull a trigger on an event. But if you can respect both sides of the battle, you can make sure that you're not being spun out of control. You're not being dominated by your emotions. You're not this action-reaction. You're also not paralysis by analysis. You're not just stuck in a thought, or you just constantly turning things over, and you're never actually doing anything. You have to find that middle ground, but it's not a perfect middle ground that you can just live in. For an all or nothing thinker like myself, it's a nightmare. I would much rather just be either action reaction or paralysis by analysis. I mean, just one of those 2 I can live with because it's easy to always do something or to never do something. What's hard is to do things at the right time, because you get that word right there, and now you got judgments, and now you got, and that's not what it is either. It's what you do is you do things just in time. You do things, and you try to connect to your emotions, and you try to let go of your thoughts, and you try to find this homeostasis, this point, this balance point, and you'll know when you're circling around it. One, your thoughts won't be changing very much, and your emotions won't be changing very much, but you'll be feeling a little bit of both of them, and then you just go with it. Say, well, hey, whatever happens from here happens, and then you get to own your consequences. Why is that important to do, though? I mean, because you are running a risk. It's a huge risk. You're going to do something. You're running a risk. Well, I talked about it a couple days ago. The hospice workers, they'd ask them, hey, tell us about, end of life people. You have a career, and across the board, hospice workers talking across the board of their hospice clients. When it comes to regret, they always regret the things they didn't do versus many, many times more, very much more than the things they regret that they did. People almost never regret what they did at the end of their lives. In our lives, we might be regretting our choices and what we did. I regret I did that. I regret I did that. Okay, that's part of living. But when you know that it's the end and you start reflecting on your life, the things that really are driving at that are the things you didn't do. It's the not pulling the trigger. So that means when you find that quiet moment in contemplation where, okay, I'm kind of turning the same ideas over. My emotions feel kind of stabilized. I'm a little nervous. Yeah, I got a little something going on inside. That's okay. It's okay. I'm going to do it. Because then whatever consequences are, Shane mentioned the phrase, learn, improve, share. You cannot improve until you start learning, and you learn by doing. It's the performance feedback performance feedback revision, right? There's no revision until you have a performance and then a feedback. So there's action, consequence, and then, hey, I'll do better next time, or I'll do different next time. Maybe that's really more evolution. I'll do different next time. It's not necessarily I'll do better, but I'll do different. But the thought being that if you're actually using your feedback, that the next time it's gonna be a better outcome for you. Is it the better thing to do? But you're always trying to find those better outcomes. And again, that's another homeostasis thing. That's I'm getting performance, I'm getting feedback, and then I'm reperforming, I'm doing feedback. So there's a little thing there where you're trying to find this trajectory where you're actually doing good things for yourself. I mean, you're actually treating yourself well, both mentally and physically. You're treating others around you well, mentally and physically. You're on a nice trajectory. Well, to get on the trajectory, you have to be dealing with and letting the balance, the performance and the feedback. You got to let them do their dance, and then that way you can apply the revision, and the revision is that trajectory. So there's an example. The performance feedback revision is what I think it was a 3, and it's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 things going on there. But if you think of the trajectory, how do I get on the trajectory? Then I just use the homeostasis. So what am I talking about homeostasis for? Because this article over here somehow got me to homeostasis. Hedge fund manager who nailed the oil crash. If you've been following your gas prices, I saw it this morning when I drove by the gas station, $2.39. Where you are in the country, you're probably paying $1.75, but here in upstate New York, we pay a lot more gas than a lot of people in the world. But that is not true at all, and I should not have said that. A lot more than people in the U.S. Outside the U.S., you're paying 2 to 3 times more for the most part in any developed country, any country that you think of with a similar standard of living across the board that we have. They're paying $7, $8, $9, $10 a gallon for gas. They're not paying $4. They laughed when we were complaining. It was like $4.50. They're kind of looking at us like, what is wrong with those Americans? $4.50 is a great price. Well, not a great price for us. We like it a little bit cheaper, and I saw it today, $2.39. That's the cheapest I've seen around here. I only pass one gas station that I look at and see the sign. I ride the bus, and on the bus line, it passes one gas station. And I try to look every day that I'm on the bus, and I try to make sure if I look, it's been going down, 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 down. Remember that first time it got under $3, and then down, 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 and then under $2.50, down, 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 and then now under $2.39. It's like, ooh, I don't know when it's going to bottom out. Well, there was this hedge fund manager who started talking about this last May. Yeah, I don't know, regurgitate the article. I mean, that's kind of, you can read the articles yourself. I mean, again, a lot of what I want to do here is talk about what these things make me think about and how do I get to my thoughts when I read this article. How did Wayne get to homeostasis? And stuff. I'm reading about a hedge fund manager. He said the prices of oil was going to go down. And he's a hedge fund manager, and one of the things they do is they invest on futures and they sell things short, basically. So you can read about exactly what that means. But he made a bet back in May that the price was going to go down, and he was taking bets. He was like, hey, I will sell you. Oil was selling at that time, $80, $90 a barrel. Essentially, he was selling it at that time for. He goes, I will sell you oil in 2015. For $70 a barrel. It's $90 a barrel now. And so the people, yeah, okay, whatever. And that's not quite how shorting works, but this is essentially what he was doing. And now the prices are $40 a barrel, and then he made a ton of money. What I was describing is selling futures, but shorting is a little bit different. But it's the same sort of thing where he was making a bet that the price of oil was going to go down. The price of oil went down, and he made $1 billion. He made this $1 billion. His hedge fund that he manages actually made $2 billion last year. So $1 billion of it came off this. So this is So the guy knows what he's talking about generally, or he understands he understands how the economy works or how the markets work, but they don't work like you and I might think they work. When we get you might take a class at university, and microeconomics. It's a class that a lot of people talk about, take the first time. And supply and demand is the thing that you learn about. And supply and demand is this classic homeostasis. The supply is basically how much stuff is being made. Pick a product, a single product. You make it, and you start making it. Bump, 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 bump. That's the supply. And the more supply you make, the more you want to get rid of it as the manufacturer. You're the one that has to find a selling price. So the homeostasis is, how do I find a selling price for my product? Well, one, I have to start making it. I start making it. Well, the more of them I make, the more I feel like I say emotionally, I got to sell it. I got to get rid of this. So I have to lower the price. As I start making more and more and more of it, I have to start lowering the price. As the supply goes up, the price has to come down. So that drives the price down. Well, the competing force is the demand. If people are buying your stuff, why are you lowering the price? I mean, I'm selling. I don't care how much I'm making. If people are still buying it, I'm raising the prices because they're still buying it. They're buying it too fast. I have to, I don't want to get my customers upset either. If people are trying to buy it and it's not available, maybe that's bad public relations. Who knows what that is, or maybe that's what you want to do. But but there's this the demand. The more the people want the stuff, the more, and not just want, but the more they actually buy, the more you can raise the price. Now,
combination of free enterprise and capitalism.
Yeah, that's kind of, and that's sort of the simplistic model. And I'm not even going to bring in the notion, maybe I will, of what's called price elasticity of demand, because there is this notion that there are certain products out there that people will buy no matter what the price is, and those things are considered inelastic. They're inelastic. It's like people want that, and they will pay for it. Whatever your price is, I will pay for it. And there's two types of things that are inelastic, and this is where economics starts getting really a little bit complex. Big economic problems get complex. There's inelastic things that are like life-saving, like water. How much would you pay for a cup of water? You will pay whatever you have to pay to get a cup of water. There is no price that you will not pay for a cup of water. Trust me. You have to drink water or you'll be dead in 3 days. I don't care what the price is, you will pay it. Okay. Well, it would be terrible if we let somebody control all our water and they just decided they were going to just charge whatever they wanted. Well, governments have to regulate utilities to stop utility companies from doing this, because if they start controlling the distribution networks for basic things, we have to pay for it or we're going to die. So, they have to be told, no, you cannot just raise the price. Those are inelastic for things, and so that they're not really subject to the whims of supply and demand. They are really more subject to the whims of demand. It's like, people will just pay whatever they have to pay. It doesn't matter. They just pay it, and it just.
Just real briefly, I was actually at a Yankee game. And George Steinbrenner is a shrewd businessman. and it happened to be started at 103 degrees at probably around 10:30 in the morning. It was one of the hottest days I've ever been through here in New York. And at the game, bottle of water was $9. Not quite 10, but you used the 10. He made it convenient. All you had to do was use a 10 spot in order to get a bottle of water. And nobody didn't get a bottle of water that day. So that just goes to prove, that situation.
That's a good one, yeah. So again, so water very inelastic. Of course, that's a situation where you put yourself at a baseball game, and maybe you can get by without a baseball game, but now he's really taking advantage of the fact that we want what we want it now, and it kind of falls into the category of this other type of inelastic prices, other things that are inelastic, and that's like vices. People will pay whatever they have to pay to enjoy themselves, whether it be alcohol, whether it be sexual gratification, those kind of things. Those tend to be very inelastic. So in the sense that whoever's in charge of it, controlling the supply, they can charge whatever price they want, and we're going to buy it. Okay, so when you're thinking about the economy and trying to deal with things that are elastic or inelastic, I have to break it down into, okay, are these things that are vices or are these things that are necessary? And I think things that are necessary and inelastic and necessary, they need to be regulated strongly. They cannot be left to the whims of the invisible hand of the market. That is completely the wrong way to think about those things, because the invisible hand of the market says, I'm going to charge people whatever I want to. If I control the water, they will pay through the nose for it. So that needs to be strongly regulated. Things that are more vice-like, we also strongly regulate those too. I have to be convinced that, okay, we have to make prostitution illegal. Well, that was a conversation we had earlier this week. Go back and look at it. And I'll listen to those conversations. I'm a little bit more convinced. My initial reaction is to no, I don't like to regulate things that are inelastic. Like I said, it's not quite the way I was saying. I don't want the government. I don't know. I don't even know what I was saying there. There's something going on there that makes sense, and I have to think what the right words are to say. But when things are inelastic, the government should or should not be involved. I mean, there's something going on there. But things that are elastic, where it's the supply and demand that determine it, then that's a place where you can kind of let the free hand of the market. As long as the free hand of the market is free to everybody and everybody has equal access to the market and nice things are happening, if people have equal access to the market, say, they don't have to have. But then the free hand of the market makes sense, because then you get this balance. You got supply and demand. You're making some stuff. We want it. We find a happy medium. It's bartering. It's bartering on a grand scale. It's not just a one-on-one barter, but it could start there. But it's bartering on a grand scale, and you find these optimum prices, or there's these price points where things sell, and the market for the moment stabilizes on that product. But of course, everything changes over time. Oil is one of those things that changes over time. Oil is one of these things, at least they tell us, that is really sensitive to supply and demand. This hedge fund manager, he made this big gamble that the market was going to go down, and he thought, I don't know if he thought it was going to crash, but he certainly thought it was going to go down. And he made a bet, essentially a financial bet, and he made $1 billion. But what's happening now with the market here now? For the past few years, oil's been very high. The price of oil's been $100 a barrel, been up there. And these big oil companies, so the people who control the oil, the people who get rich off the barrels of oil, have been stockpiling cash like you would not believe. Okay, God bless them if they can charge that price and get rich. Then that's supply and demand. They're let them make all the money they can. That's their job, and they're stockpiling the cash until the market crashes, like now. Okay, well, you think, oh, those poor people, now they can't make all the money that they were making before, and they're gonna, whatever's gonna happen to them. But it gets worse than this. Here's where they get to use all that money and power. And here's actually what they're doing. They're able to take all that money. They're cash rich. So they come in, they buy all the oil now, and then for as long as they can, they buy it all up, and then they put it in oil tankers, and they're filling up oil tankers. These super tankers of oil are getting filled up and just sent out to sea. They're not being sent to port to be processed for fuel. They're just buying it because, hey, this is cheap oil. Oil is now under $40 a barrel. I can buy it at $40 a barrel. I can hold on to it for 2 or 3 years. And when the price goes back up, I'll start selling it again. Well, what is that doing though? That means oil's really cheap. We could really, right now, because the oil's really cheap, that drives the because it's cheap because of a lot of supply. There's lots of oil out there right now. That's what's driving the price down. It's the supply and demand. So it's really cheap. So we could all benefit from cheap oil because we're just going to buy the amount that we normally buy. Maybe we can drive a little bit more, but we're going to actually be able to take and put that cash in our pockets because maybe we're not going to drive a lot more. I mean, we're still going to go to work, we're going to go to movies. We're going to get a little bump in our driving because now we get to go do a few extra things. But the bulk of your use of oil and gas is going to be the same. It's just going to cost you less, so you put cash in your pocket. Now you're the one putting cash in your pocket because the supply is so plentiful. You can enjoy that, but they're buying it all. They're eating away at the supply. So the supply is vanishing, not because we're using it, those of us that use the oil, but because the people who have the cash, I mean billions and billions of dollars of cash, hundreds of billions of dollars of cash, trillions of dollars of cash, are buying the oil in bulk, and they're buying it out from under us. They're stealing that supply. And they're not stealing it, but they're buying it. They're buying so much more than they would, because they don't normally buy it. That's not their job. Their job is to sell it. But now they're buying it. They've upset the supply curve. They're eating away the supply. When the supply starts eating away, that automatically has that effect of the price going up because it's lots of supply, low prices. You cut back the supply, prices start going back up. Well, also as prices start going back up, people get demand starts going up a little bit. They starting to create more demand because the demand's coming from them. They're buying it, so they're driving the price back up. So there's this big pie of cheap pie, which we could eat at for a year or two, and we would all put cash in our pocket. They're swooping in, eating the whole pie now, taking all that money themselves. The price goes back up, and we go back to paying the high price, and they get that cash flow back into their pocket. So in other words, the money keeps flowing to them. The rich get richer. How do the rich get richer? They get richer by using their money, swooping in and taking advantage of the fact that they can outbuy you billions to one, and that you're not going to change your behavior because gas is cheap. I mean, seriously, gas goes from $4 a gallon to $2.50 a gallon. Are you driving 3, 4, 5 times more than you were before? No, you drive a little bit more. I get to go out twice a week. I can, whatever. You drive a little bit more, and you feel good about it because you're getting a lot of benefit from that, and you're getting the cash in your pocket. They don't live in that world. This is their world. Is I can buy tons and tons of oil. I can fill up oil. You know how much these oil tankers cost? I didn't look it up today, so I don't know. These oil tankers are monstrous. They're huge, 300 yards long. They're 1,000 feet long. They're $1 billion or more. I mean, well over $1 billion or more each. These things are expensive to buy. They just fill them with oil, and they're going to float them around with oil for a couple of years until the price of oil goes back up, and then they're going to sell you that oil that they bought cheap. I mean, it's good business. Buy low, sell high. But the game is rigged because they have so much money. They have so much power. They so much control the market that we don't get to eat at this pie of this cheap gas. We don't get to eat at this for the next year or two, put money in our pocket and start some of that transfer back to us. No, they come in, they swoop in, they take it all, and they take advantage of it. And the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and we're
I actually,
you get your own money.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
You're talking about these tankers. I actually saw a video of one, and a little boy had a video camera, and he was videotaping this big, huge tanker that was coming through. It took over 13 minutes for the whole tanker to go by the boy. I mean, that's how large these things are, and like you say, they're around 300 yards long, and which is massive. That's 3 football fields, and another thing is and definitely gas is definitely an example of this. When I was younger, my uncle was a partner in a satellite company where they used to sell the big satellites for TV, in which case you would be able to get all the channels in the world and then some for a nominal fee, and it wasn't that bad, but it was a high cost for the equipment. Then came in the 18-inch dish. Well, we were the first ones that actually had the 18-inch dish. We were the first ones that brought in, one of the first ones that brought in Sony. And we were able to sell this thing anywhere between $600 and $800. And on top of it, because the demand was there, we put a stereo system in along with it, and speakers and everything like this. So it ended up being $1,300, and people were paying it. Well, what happened is with the 18-inch dish, the government regulation came into play, and DirecTV decided they wanted to be monopoly. They wanted to monopolize the program of all the 18-inch dishes. So they made some sort of lobby move with the government. Well, the government came in and they regulated the 18-inch dish to have to be sold for no more than $199. And DirecTV was the programmer for Sony, for RCA, for Toshiba, for all of them. The only one that wasn't was Echo. And the only reason why that is because the man went ahead and threw up a satellite that nobody thought that was going to stay there, and it did. And he was able to be the only competitor to DirecTV for cable. So, but the demand was there. They knew it, and they were able to charge ridiculous prices for programming, and so much, in fact, that they were able to drive the market down for the 18-inch dish with these large companies. You're not talking about small companies that just get run over all of a sudden. You're talking about Sony, RCA, Toshiba. You're talking about serious companies, and they were basically, end run by the program.
That's another one of those things that's real of interest to me is these people who control distribution of media, in a sense, they control distribution of the product. Because then what they do is they'll give you the equipment at they'll lose money on giving you the equipment. They don't care, right, because they know that you want the Kodak did this. I worked for Kodak for a while, many years ago, not in their film industry, but Kodak built their company on film processing. You could buy Kodak film, and they gave away Kodak cameras back in the old days, in the 30s and 40s, 50s, the little brownie and other things. They didn't care. They want you to have a camera. They don't care how cheap the camera is or how much they lose money giving you a camera, because once you have the camera, you're going to start taking pictures. One, you got to buy the film from them. Of course, you don't have to. You could buy it from somebody else. Good luck. Two, when you want the film processed, you got to go back to them. So now they can start selling you the film cheap too, because somebody else getting the film business, it's going to cost them a lot of money to produce the high quality film that Kodak. You can't do it. I mean, Kodak owned the mining companies that mine the chemicals out of the ground to the silver and all that stuff to do all the film processing, and all the stuff that went into making the film. They owned it from the ground up. Very vertical company. They were vertically integrated. They did everything. So they could get the film to you. They give you the camera. They give you the film. They charge you a high price because it's a high price product, but they could charge less than the competitor would charge on that, because the competitor, it was very expensive to make film. Where Kodak would hit you is the processing. Is they would charge you. It was free for them to do processing. Essentially, they knew how to do it. They had figured out, all proprietary, secretive, and they could do it and get these primo pictures back. So you say, well, I could buy the cheaper film. I'll buy my cheap Kodak film maybe, because they're giving to me a good price, but I'll do the processing somewhere else, and then you end up getting crap processing. It's like, so now you got to go to Kodak and say, well, it's a much better product over at Kodak. Well, that's where they're making all their money. They're making their money on the processing. They're making, they're losing money on the camera. They're kind of breaking even on the film, and then they're getting rich off the processing. And that was what they were in the business. That was Kodak's business, was film processing, but they controlled the entire chain up to there. So like with
basically 100% profit, if not more.
Yeah, once you get to there, once they knew what they were doing, and DirecTV was like the same thing. They're selling programming. They're not selling dishes. So what they do is they get the laws changed so that nobody else can sell dishes. We'll give you the dish. $200. Whatever. You have the dish.
Now you get it for free. I mean,
it
went $199.
went 99. Now you get it for free, and with a 2-year listing of programs.
And cell phones are the same thing now. It's the cell phone companies, they make their money by getting you to buy the service. They make deals with Apple. Apple sells the phone for Apple's, that's the classic example. $700, say. Well, we'll make a deal. The cell providers will pay Apple the $700, maybe get a little discount price, $600, $500, but $600, because these things cost about $600. Apple only makes about $100 per unit. I mean, it's not like Apple's making tons of money. These things are expensive to make, but Apple makes their $100 a unit, so they're getting rich. These cell phone companies, they buy these phones in bulk from Apple, and so maybe Apple's making $200 a phone, but they'll make $100 a phone off the cell phone provider. They'll give you the phone at a huge discount because they're going to make that back at you. You're going to be paying $50 a month for your phone service, $80 a month for your phone service, $100 a month for your phone service forever.
To start.
Yeah, and the same with your cable company. We'll give you this cable box for free. It tunes in all these channels. It's great. It's free, and you're going to pay us $100 a month forever. So they, it's that forever thing that they're making their money off.
We have a visitor.
Oh, we've got a visitor in the house. Look at this. We got Crystal in the house, and Crystal, she can actually talk. We can turn her mic on and say, "Hey, Crystal, how you doing?" And then I don't know. Actually,
here?
Maybe Crystal doesn't know that she's on the air. It was just we have Crystal's profile picture. You can see at the bottom of the screen. And she came in just in time because we're kind of wrapping it up there. I mean, got kind of actually talking about particulars of stories, and I was hinting at some. You're getting a little sense maybe of my political and economic leanings, but the main idea was the thought of homeostasis, that there's two competing forces, and you really have to let both forces act on their own and sort of unencumbered. I mean, not like with the oil, the game is rigged, and same with the cable companies, the game is rigged, and when the game is rigged, then this whole natural homeostasis thing that has to go out the window. But the human body has evolved over billions of years, and it takes advantage of this homeostasis really quite well. I think I talked about it yesterday with the food, getting everything in your diet. We evolved to eat everything. As long as we eat everything, then humans will do great. Best diet in the world for a human is varied. Eat a little bit of everything, and just control what you eat. That's the best diet in the world for anybody. And with here, the homeostasis, there's a homeostasis in the brain that we have to worry about. There's the rational part of the brain, there's the emotional part of the brain, and the emotional part is making you go, go, go. It wants you to act. It wants you to pull the trigger right now. And the rational part of the brain is like, slow down, think about that. And trying to find that balance so that you get an action that you really enjoy. And now that Crystal's shown up, we're going to jump out and turn off. Crystal, you don't have to go anywhere. We can hang out. This is a Google Hangout, actually, and this is the promise that we talked about earlier. Guys, come in, fill up the bottom of the row here with people. We can sit, we can talk before the show and after the show. You get to watch during the show. And who knows, you might appear on camera during the show. I can always click, and just like I put Shane up there, I can put other people up there. But after the show, we'll sit and we'll talk about what we've been seeing, hearing, feeling. I have a feeling that we did something to anger Crystal, and that's why she came in here, because she's like, I got to get in there now and talk to these people and stop them from whatever it is they're doing, because they're up to something, and this is getting ready to go off the rails. And we've gone probably 45 minutes now. Is that true?
48 minutes.
Look at that. So try to keep it down to 20 minutes. It was hedge fund managers and billionaires. And let me just throw out the feedback line, and then I'll end it on that. Feedback line, give us a call, 15189-666-175. That's from 3 to 5, 3 to 4 during the week, 3 to 5 on weekends, 11 to midnight every night after the show. That's the feedback line, 15189-666-175. With that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the mics, and I'm going to turn off the broadcast, and you guys, courage, and join us back again tomorrow.
Have a good night, folks.
Good night, folks.